Okay, hello and welcome to our one-off UKRG conversation. We are recording on Friday, the 24th of July. We are revisiting our Friends of the Transport Agents, just so that everybody can have a brief catch-up and see what's going on at the moment. So therefore, I would like to introduce to you all Ben Adams from Constantine, Stuart Brown from Momart, Eileen Gerling from Crown Fine Art, who's the Regional HR Director for Crown, and Dave Williams from MTech. Very kindly agreed to spend some time with us today and to bring us up to date on the latest situation in art transport. So if everybody's ready, then we'll get started. So if I might address the first one to Ben, can we have a brief status update, please? Your levels of capacity and how's it going, basically? Is the schedule filling up and are things starting to move?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's a slow burn. We're very glad that obviously the museums have started opening. I don't think anyone anticipated a immediate return to work and immediate return to normality. But we're operating, I would say, at the moment about 50% of staff in full-time work. We have about 30 technicians working in their bubble groups, and it's been quite useful, obviously, having the furlough scheme. From a business standpoint, having the furlough scheme extended through to the end of October, and also the part-time furlough arrangement has also been something we've been looking at and using as much as possible. I think at the moment we have capacity to cover whatever we need to do, and we have plenty of crew waiting to come back and very eager to come back. But at present, what we're looking at, and I don't know if the others will share the same thing, but we're looking at a relatively busy July, August, and then a bit of a plateau in the autumn. It seems as though a lot of institutions have moved on to 2021, and 2021 seems to be where most of the activity will be. So yeah, at the moment, things are starting to move. We are starting to see a few couriers on vehicles as well. There are international trucks traveling internationally. There is some work at the airport as well. But there's obviously far more scope there should the business come back to normality.
How's that? Are the other companies reporting the same kind of experience at the moment?
Well, certainly at MTech, we have experienced a slow rise in the take-up of our services. We've operated all the way through. We've had trucks internationally in one country or another since really mid-April. Some of our private collectors seem to be really wanting to move stuff. What we're seeing now is we're starting to bring employees back. Some operational staff in the office, a lot of technicians and drivers. When I say a lot, I'm not talking about a full complement by any stretch of the imagination, but we were probably running on about 30% staff level. We're probably up to about 50% at the moment. What we're seeing, a lot of jobs are actually confirming now for deinstallations more than actually new exhibitions, packing and transport, and going to venues. We're really taking the residual exhibitions that were installed earlier part of the year, and like Ben said, a lot of the actual work is being scheduled now for 2021, and 2020 is probably going to be the lost year of exhibitions, if I'm honest. But it's hopeful, and we are working, and that's what we can be expected. What we're seeing from staff are concerned to come back, and I can speak for all of the shippers. I've been seeing the risk assessments coming in, and we've been sending ours out, and certainly the shippers that are coming to us to collect, they've been adhering to our own levels of COVID preparedness. So we feel it's fairly safe. But I think the real issue is assuring our staff that everything is in place and it is actually, reasonably safe to come back. We have the measures in place. I think that's the most difficult thing to do because people are concerned. you know.
I'd agree.
Can I just, oh yeah.
Go on, David.
I was just going to, just to bring that up and just to ask how the crews are feeling about coming back to work, and how those are who have worked right through. But Stuart, do you want to just jump in and say if there's anything that you want to fill in with your point of view first?
No, I mean, I'll mirror everything Dave and Ben have said. It is a slow pickup. By the sounds of it, we're all on a similar kind of level of staff. What we are seeing, similar to everyone else, is this stream of repatriation that we're calling it. It's everything coming back that was stranded by air, road and sea. That's all moved along happily. And what we're also seeing, which is great for us, and I'm sure for everyone else, we're seeing a lot of flexibility and cooperation from those clients that we are working. They're all understanding the situation and the levels that we're at. Capacity, like Ben said, we can, because of the government scheme, we can adjust that, whether it's project based or longer term. So there's great flexibility in that scheme as we need it to meet the capacity that's there. But again, there seems to be this spike and then a level off, tail off towards the end of the year.
Thank you very much. Eileen, if I might bring you in, just about this question. So the question being, how are the crews on coming back to work? And how are those bearing up who have worked right through effectively? And have you any reported worries, I suppose, from your teams on site?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that you're saying is what any sector or any business is saying at the moment. So we can divide our people up almost, can't we? We can start off by focusing on people who've been in all the way through this crisis. And what I'm going to say to you is probably quite unusual, but hear me out. You are probably exhausted. You have worked to the limit of your experience in a time that is, I won't use the word unprecedented because it's driving me insane, but in a time that none of us have been through. Nobody knows the answers. Nobody knows what to anticipate. You're trying to keep your businesses running. You're trying to support your people. And I'm going to say to you, be kind to yourselves. You are no good to anybody if you don't put your own oxygen mask on. So you need to think about cutting yourselves a little bit of slack. That's my first piece of advice. Anybody who's been working, look after yourselves. Take some time off. It sounds counterintuitive when everything is starting to pick up again. But believe me, if there's nothing in the tank, you won't go very far. So my advice is make sure you look after yourselves first of all, and then think about the people who are working for you who've also been through this. We've had people in our organisation who've been working from home. The initial thing for those people who can work from home is this is deep joy and happiness. Oh, I've got work-life balance. It's fabulous. It's amazing. I'm never going to work in an office again. 4 months down the line, people are saying, please, can I come back to the office? So we've done surveys and our people are saying, yeah, maybe I don't want to come back full time. Maybe I'd like to flex, but I've got no work-life balance because I take 7 steps from my bedroom to the place where I work. I work at the kitchen table. The family are in and around me. I'm not accessible to them. Even small things like your commute to and from work. We often use that as a bit of a decompress. We might listen to the radio and get wound up. We might listen to music and chill out. But you're walking straight from the work environment in there. So that was about my first piece of advice, is to look after yourselves and be kind to yourselves and take some time off. The second thing that we found is this whole return to work is about a dialogue. It's about a conversation with people. Anybody I'm looking at has a different set of circumstances, and we can't assume it's one size fits all. Some of us are concerned about family members, some of us are concerned about working practices. So great managers talk to their people and understand exactly what their area of concern is. You cannot personally prevent the spread of COVID, okay? You can't do that. And we would be naive to assume that we would make our workplace 100% sterile and plastic, because we can't. What we can do is we can put the right operating mechanisms, the risk assessments, the working practices, the PPE, all of those things, and we can talk to our staff about what we've done, but ultimately it's driven by their behaviour. Because you know what, we've seen it on the news today, shops are mandatory masks are mandatory in shops. but shops aren't enforcing it. So we need to get our people on board. So oxygen mask on, talk to people, understand what's concerning them, recognise that working from home for everybody might not be possible, because if you're a technician or a crew member, you can't do your job that way. If you're living in a shared house with other people and you're perched on the end of your bed and working off a laptop, that isn't going to work either. So recognising we've all got different concerns and how we can address them. Different organisations can do different things. We've done a little pulse survey. We did a very quick and dirty Survey Monkey, asked people 10 questions. That gave us then the feedback of what people wanted to look at and wanted to know about. We've set up a little group, our COVID working group. We've asked for people who particularly have concerns about coming back to work to be part of it. We have half an hour once a week talking about what the issues are, what the concerns are. And you know what? Some people have some blooming brilliant ideas that we hadn't thought of. So things like, I can't think of, sanitizer dispensers that you operate with your feet, using those rather than hand ones. Wristbands, so you might have seen this on LinkedIn, coloured paper wristbands, red, amber, green. People can put them on when they come into the workplace. It gives everybody else a message. Green means I'm really cool, I'm chilled, I'm happy to be back here. Amber means I'm a little bit uncertain. Red means I'm very worried. And then we can all address our behaviour and how we react to them. So those were some of the things that I would say.
That's quite an interesting approach. That you were just saying as well about the guidelines. So obviously those are changing, but generally speaking, have people found that the procedures that were based on the Department for Transport guidelines, have people found that they have gone into practice reasonably well, or have you encountered any practical difficulties, I suppose, out on the road or in dealing with institutions? So one thing that came up was the exchange of the risk assessments. Is that working through okay, or are you finding significant differences in approaches between institutions and between your crews?
I think
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, we're finding it quite simple. The exchange of those risk assessments is done a couple of days before the jobs are actually happening. We haven't seen any problems with that. Out on site, the handling of documentation, whether it's collection notes, delivery notes, some clients have wanted something different done, and we've adapted to that, and we've spoken about what's needed. So I haven't seen or heard of any pushback against our risk assessments versus the client's risk assessments. Sometimes there might be a little hump you need to get over, but nothing a conversation can't take care of.
Yeah, I think Stuart's right. Sorry, Dave.
No, go on, you go, mate.
Sorry, mate. Stuart's absolutely right. I mean, especially the museum clients. I mean, I think it's coming from, we're coming from exactly the same position most of the time, and the sharing of information and the risk assessment is mirrored across. Occasionally, you do get requests that are slightly out of key, out of step. You know, whether it's specific FFP requirements that aren't necessarily in the government guidelines, but you know, it's relatively quick to pick up stocks of those, and we have quite a detailed assumption. Everyone has a stock of all the different types of masks and everything else now. So yeah, generally across the board, I think that the crews have all reported back. The coordinators in the office and the crews have reported back that the risk assessment process seems to be going very well and did better than expected.
I think what we've found as a company is the feedback we're getting through some of our crews, and they're working in their own sort of cohort bubbles. But when they go to some shippers, and none of us thankfully involved in this today, but in the UK, that we've been refused use of welfare facilities a couple of times, which is actually against the law. And, you know, we've taken it up with those companies when our drivers have come back and reported. You know, we made it plain on our website that essential staff coming to our warehouses for delivering or collections or essential visitors, there are full welfare facilities available. You know, it is a basic human right to be able to use the bathroom. And, you know, in the early days, it was difficult actually finding somewhere to get a coffee even. So, you know, when you're coming to somewhere that you're expected, you've got the risk assessment from the coordinators, it's only reasonable to allow the crews you know, to use the facilities. It's a bare minimum, and I think that was quite shocked. I was shocked the first time I ever got that report back, and we phoned the company concerned straight away and said, look, you know, this is not on. When your people come to us, of course the facilities are there. You know, it's not reasonable to refuse that service. And I think that's something that really needs to be out there when staff are coming back. Although everyone's really trying to reduce their potential spreading the virus or even contracting the virus, life still has to go on, and people still have to have that basic right, you know, because where will we be otherwise? You know, it'd be a terrible state of affairs.
You're right.
Have you, has anyone in teams encountered people working on site who are working outside of their usual role? So if they've had to, so perhaps other people, other individuals, other workers are still on furlough, so you're dealing with people who are having to cover other roles. It's not their usual line of work, as it were.
Well, a couple of times I've been in the warehouse driving the forklift, so which is something I wouldn't normally do. But luckily, I've kept my qualifications up. But you know, I've come across quite a few people doing different things that they wouldn't normally do.
And that's the same for us. It's been one of those situations. Everyone pitches in, and we've been careful with, or not careful, or not selective, but we've made sure the people we have brought back off furlough have a wide range of staff. So a lot of our driver technicians start their life in the packing and case making shop. So they've been some of the guys that we brought back first, because if there isn't the activity on the road, they could have helped out in the case making and packing shop. So that balance, getting that balance right, has been important for us.
I just, if I might interject, I think that's another thing to consider when we're thinking about bringing people back in from furlough is, if you haven't been doing your job for the last 2 months or 3 months, you've probably been effectively de-skilled service, and giving people the opportunity to learn back, giving people the opportunity to kind of have a refresher, particularly on things relative to health and safety, particularly if they haven't done that job for a little period of time. So building some of that kind of keeping in touch time. And with flexi furlough, of course, one of the great advantages is you can bring people back in just to do a half day or a day of briefing them, so that they feel confident about what's expected of them when they come back into the workplace. I think that's really, really important to think about investing in that time, because you can send emails, you can make phone calls, but it's when you have a group of people together that you start these conversations. And what you were worried about, Stuart, is exactly what Ben was worried about, and now we can all talk about it and it's out there and open.
What do you think have been the main challenges, therefore, in restarting operations? So as teams have started to come back and you're building up capacity on the road, what do you think have been the most difficult? And also moving on, I think there was a mention earlier of operations at the airport and some couriers even on board trucks. So what have there been any experiences there most recently?
I mean, sorry, go on.
Go.
No, you go.
I mean, we haven't had, as long as we've tried to implement clear return to work policies, clearly define safe working practices, and make sure that everyone's aware of it. We've tried to avoid bringing people back tomorrow. We'll always try and give people a kind of week or so's notice. That's been taken well. Operations wise, one of the biggest things, and we're seeing it more on the gallery side because that's picking up quicker, is that it's the air freight costs again, and it's getting security on the air freight costs. They are still so volatile. That is still one of our biggest challenges. Everything else is within our hands to some extent, but the volatility on the air freight costs has been a challenge, and it's meaning that we're planning one thing for 1 week and then it gets bumped and it's pushing back. So that's been one of our biggest challenges, I think, is just trying to get a good balance with what's right with the air freights.
I think
as well. Yeah, sorry, Ben, but
Dave, go on, Dave.
We really haven't found any parity. Some things we thought there would be a reasonable cost have been absolutely astronomical, and some things where we think we're really going to pay the price for this have been reasonable cost. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, I think where it's very easy to say, and I appreciate this is very easy to say, but where you have where you have time and flexibility, it really makes a difference because in every area, whether it's packing, the trucking at the airport, dealing with the airlines, working out the schedules, even working out the crews, because the crews are now in bubbles. Actually putting the schedules together can be relatively tricky, even though there isn't the same level of work around at the moment. Should work come on relatively quickly, that sort of planning element is still key. There's a lot. I mean, Stuart will know all about this as well, especially given his former life. But there's a lot going on with the airlines and at the airports at the moment that, although there isn't that level of business, it's still an area that, should you look at sending anything through the airport at the moment, it really has to be done so well in advance, because the airlines seem to be, each different airline carrier, handler, has their own set of guidelines and distancing and use of PPE. Some will only accept one courier in the cargo area at any one time. People are talking about tracking systems and this. Well, some airlines won't take tracking systems on planes. Some will only allow one because of the lithium battery. There's 5 million different things going on with the airlines, even though there isn't actually that level of cargo at the moment. So planning things in advance has never been as important as it is at the moment, and it really is a very important thing.
Do you find that you're having to allow extra time, therefore, even on the road scheduling? Do you have to allow extra time for the teams on site to deal with the different regulations, or the different approaches that might be in place at the institutions in terms of gaining access to the site and then actually working with the team there?
I think with the coordinators, and I'm sure this is the same with everyone, the coordinators do their own risk assessment with the registrar, and then the technicians, when they arrive on site, do a dynamic risk assessment. At that point, if something isn't quite right, then yeah, there can be a slight delay. There can be delays to things like with a large load as well. Normally you would have a much larger group of technicians offloading and this, that. Now you can't because of the distancing, or people are a lot more cautious to do it. So yeah, there is that bit more of a delay to everything that we do. I don't know if Stuart, Dave and Eileen have encountered the same thing.
I think, there is certainly delays in entering premises, and people want to see who's coming. They want to know in advance who's coming, and really that's only right. I mean, we're planning a job at the moment, and people are saying we want a COVID test, a negative test. Well, that's very easy to say, but it's not that easy in practice to do. And we're still negotiating that at the moment. So there's something that's raised its head up last night. So we're still looking into that and seeing how we can facilitate that. Personally, I don't see it's a reasonable request at the minute. Knowing what the availability of some of the tests are we taking those tests away from other people who really do need that? Just for what we're doing for one client. There's got to be a sense of reality about what the risks are, and what the mitigation, an acceptable mitigation, of the risk. I think some people just throw everything out the window and want everything, but some people are fairly relaxed about it. There's no level playing field amongst all the clients that I'm dealing with anyway.
Ben and Dave just wrapped that up quite well on the operational side, but we also need to think about the clerical side, the guys, the coordinators, the estimators in the office. What registrars may find is that things that we may only take a couple of hours to get back to them on previously, now because we have fewer staff across the departments, that trickle effect trickles down and trickles back up. So as responsive as we're trying to be, and trying to be as responsive as we always were, there needs to be an element, and it comes back to what we spoke about last time, and again it's been mentioned today by Ben, is this the flexibility and cooperation from everyone at the moment, because it's not just the operational side that's taking some time, it's the clerical side as well. And our few coordinators have been working their socks off. as Eileen said, they have been working their socks off for the last few months, and hands up to them.
Stuart's right, and also we should consider that goes internationally as well. So you know, with the agents in the other countries as well, some of which you know don't have a furlough scheme. To be honest with you, some of which are companies that are a lot smaller, maybe 1 or 2 people. You know, and they are some of the companies are struggling to get responses back as quickly as they normally would, for whatever reason. So some of the time it's not it's not the willingness that isn't there. It's just time and staffing.
Yeah. Just to mirror what Elaine said earlier, you know, some of the departments have only got a couple of people in them, and the rest of the staff are furloughed and not working from home. You know, they are under tremendous pressure. You know, and you can see that on their faces some mornings when they come in. So, you know, there is something to say for that. You know, we're seeing a few of our staff requesting holidays, and obviously we want them to go on holiday. You know, it's as simple as that. And the flexible furlough has allowed us to bring people back in to allow that to happen. And I think, you know, it's our responsibility, you know, to follow that throughout the company. Because like I say, even people on furlough have been on furlough since, you know, the end of March. You know, you need a holiday from home sometimes. You know, trying to find things to do every day is a difficult task. And after so many months, you know, it's a problem.
It is, and I think there's a really important thing I will say is it's the shadow of the leader, and you are leaders in your field, in your business, in your workplace, and people follow and adopt what you do. They follow that shadow. So the fact that you can be saying, do you know what, I have worked my socks off, I am tired and I'm going to take a couple of days off, means that other people will then feel it's okay to do that. It's okay to say I'm tired. The whole British stiff upper lip is kind of disappearing fast. In this age now, we're allowed to say, do you know what? I'm knackered, I'm burnt out, I need a break. And if you do it, it's more powerful, because then people will feel that it's valid to do it.
Very much. Just to wrap up the last question, really, and in terms of operations, so institutions that may not have moved anything for months, and in terms of bringing their staff back to work, do you have any tips for museums and institutions starting to venture into lending, moving and installing at the moment? We start with Stuart.
I mean, if it comes back to everything, it's the conversation. What is it, and looking at the risk of what it is they want to happen. Everything, as we've always said, everything all of us do is about mitigating risk. We have another element on top of that now. So opening up the conversation with your agent from the beginning, and giving some clear information about exactly what it is you want to do, because that helps us understand and prepare and plan for what it is you want to do. Sometimes the more information can be information overload, but we always say the more information, the better.
Yeah, I think I think for bringing people back, I mean, we've one of our senior technical managers is basically does an induction of every member of staff that comes back, you know, whether they're technical or office staff, even the directors, would you believe, even the directors. And so that level of communication, that soft start back to work, is also to check people's physical and mental capability, capacity at coming back. Because not everyone, I think some people honestly believe that furlough was a wonderful experience for absolutely everyone. And of course, it's absolutely not. A lot of people felt a very conflicting emotions about being under furlough and furlough conditions. And so making sure that people are ready to return is really key. So a soft start into work is really important. Elements of training, you know, very, very much just resetting in many ways, because I think people need it. They carry a certain amount of anxiety with them, some of the people who are coming back, and they need that confidence, not everyone, but some people, and they need their confidence building back up again.
I think induction is the key, definitely. You know, we've used the period where we weren't so busy and we've had staff available. You know, we've reset everything we've done. We've looked at every process we're doing, and you know, we've rewritten a couple of inductions. Our health and safety guy's been in. He's, you know, for all the drivers, all the technicians that are coming in, we've redone our inductions to include the COVID issues and what, you know, the company wants them to do when they're out on the road or away from base, because, you know, you're going to all sorts of different scenarios. They need to know how to react to this, you know, what everyone's saying is the new normal. But, you know, COVID's not going away anytime soon. So we've got to live with it. And, you know, we've got to minimise that risk, but also we need to get the economy going as well. So when people do come back, like Stuart says, information is king. If you've got the information, you can make your arrangements using that information. You know, an email with a couple of lines, you know, and then someone's on flexible furlough, you don't talk to them until next week, is going to be kicking their job down the road a little bit, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. We need to have that information up front, get it done, so we can help you get back to work and get your scheduling going again, and your institution or whatever you're doing in your institution, you want to do it in a reasonable time frame, because the lack of people in certainly our businesses and also your businesses and institutions, really, you need to get moving, and you need to give that information up front so we can act on it while you're maybe on your furlough days.
Thank you very much then. Thank you very much everyone for your time again today. Thanks to everybody watching. Keep in touch, and we'll be back in touch with more events information soon for the UKRG. In the meantime, goodbye.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.